Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is BIM's week 2, and today we have the pleasure of having SeaPotential doing a workshop entitled Embodying Past, Present, and Future. Throughout their workshop, they're going to be linking Black culture, marine science, and art. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Ebony and Savannah, who will take you through this journey.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I want to quickly just drop something in the chat. I want to see who's here, maybe that location, what indigenous lands that you reside on, and something that you enjoy doing. So I'm just going to throw this in the chat real quick. And I'll just give that a second to see what comes through.
Today, Ebony and I are calling in from Seattle, Washington, which is the ancestral lands of the Duwamish, Coast Salish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot people, past and present.
Music, dance, love it. We'll be doing a little bit of that today, just so you know. Ooh, nature walks. Nice. See, y'all like movement? Okay. All right, so we are actually going to share a little bit of screen and ask you a question. So, oops, sorry. Just for how this will work, so there's this feature called Annotate. If you go down to your view options, you'll see the actual Annotate button, and you can click it, and then it allows you to draw or use a stamp or whatever feels right to you. And so our question for you is, how are you feeling today? So go ahead and use that feature, put a stamp or a circle, whatever, around whatever you resonate with today. Ooh, happy, love that. I call that, I don't know, that vibe that she's giving me is chill. So I love her. Okay, okay. All right, we got some Snoopy feeling tired. I hope as we go on that you feel a little less tired.
I'm glad we have no Squidwards here. Oh, just kidding. We got Squidward. But that's okay. You know, we honor everybody in this space here today. Sometimes we're going to feel like Squidward, and that's just that.
All right. So thank you for participating in that with us. We love to know a little bit about where y'all are in your headspace. And again, we just hope as we continue to go on that we can change your mood or help you be in a state of safety and happiness. So, sorry. Okay.
Great.
And so we're going to do a little bit of container setting before we start. We want to first say that we are here to highlight and prioritize Black experiences. And this can look like form of support. And so we have this acronym called WAIT. Why am I talking? Why am I not talking? That can be stepping back if you see that you've been occupying a lot of space and making that open for others, or you can come forward if you're wondering like, why am I not sharing? Maybe processing a little bit of that and trying to come outside of that box or that form of safety. We want to say that all personal stories shared in a space stays in the space. You can take experiences, general references, but just do not share anyone's personal story and give their name. And we ask that that you navigate the depth that you're going to as we're asking you some of these questions. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, we say stay around a 5 if there's a traumatic experience that happened associated with the questions we're asking. Just don't try to go too deep where we can't help you come out of that. And lastly, we just ask that you be vulnerable. We're going to be doing some sharing of stories. We ask that you see if you can come out and share some of those. We're going to be doing some somatic practices. So ask that you engage and just let it happen. So thank you for that.
And so to get us started, actually, Ebony, if you can stop sharing the screen.
Oh, yes.
We're going to go into a grounding meditation that will connect us all. So to really settle into our bodies and this time and space with each other today, we are going to start by breathing in unison. And we will start with a 4-count breath, which essentially means that we will be breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding again for 4. And since 4 is the number of stability and balance, we're going to do it 4 times through as well. So you can do this with your eyes open or closed, doesn't really matter, whatever feels most comfortable to you. So let you get comfortable in your seat. And I'll invite you to join me now in breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, one last time, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Now you can go ahead and breathe at your own pace now. And I'm going to invite you to use your breath as a tool of transmutation. We're going to call in the energies and feelings we want to experience during our time together and release what doesn't serve us right now. So at the timing of your own natural breath, I invite you to breathe in excitement And breathe out stress. Breathe in creativity. And breathe out any restriction or limitation to that creativity. Breathe in gratitude. And breathe out any feelings of lack. Breathe in connection. And breathe out any separation. Go ahead and continue to breathe and observe how it feels to tune into this function of ours that often goes unnoticed. Take a moment to just sit with your breath and see how it feels moving in and out of your body. Is your breath steady? Is there a shakiness to it? Maybe you feel a coolness or a warmth brush over your face as you breathe out. Can you feel your lungs? Are they expanding and deflating? Now, I know this is a virtual event and we don't have the privilege of being in the same space as each other today, but we all are on the same earth together. And so for that reason, I like to think that when you breathe out, I breathe some of you back in and vice versa. And so think about how much influence we have over one another simply by living on this planet together and recycling these same vital resources. In my opinion, we're all bioaccumulating fragments of one another. And if we can observe that, we can mindlessly, or we can avoid mindlessly absorbing energy that doesn't serve us. We can transmute it and breathe it back out. Breathing is the most consistent thing about our lives as humans, and even that isn't truly consistent. We hold our breath when we get scared, get choked up before we cry, and exhale largely when relieved, and so on. So living is being aware of inconsistency and navigating your way back into balance. So taking time to be mindful about our most basic function, breathing, we can find it easier to become the ultimate observer. So to really solidify our connection with each other here today, let's breathe in and out together one more time. And this time we're going to breathe in presence and breathe out distraction. Thank you all for joining me in that grounding exercise. Ebony and I are so excited to be here with you today. But by this point, you might be wondering who we even are. So I'm going to pass it to Ebony, and she's going to get us started in introducing ourselves.
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for participating in the activity with us. So we're going to open up by sharing just a little bit about our own personal backgrounds and then about our company and our collective mission. So my name is Ebony Wellborn again, she, her pronouns. I'm originally from the Carolinas. That's where I was born, raised. I went to college in Greensboro, North Carolina. I've been on the East Coast or on the West Coast, though, for about 3 years now. I've majored in environmental studies, but have always been really passionate about marine ecosystems. And so while in college, I was able to get my advanced open water certification. And then after graduating, I took on different internships pertaining to marine science. So I went down to Florida to do a little bit of wildlife rehabilitation, environmental education, and found myself on the West Coast doing marine science education for youth, as well as teaching them how to use water vehicles safely. But me and Savannah ended up meeting at our previous position called Earth Core, where we did restoration fieldwork. After the first year, we were already being friends, but they did this activity that basically asked if we could do anything in the world, what would it be? And we both stood up and said something similar about connecting BIPOC youth to marine science. And so that was really interesting. We were already friends. We didn't know this, but we were like, we're not going to do anything about it because we don't have no business backgrounds. And so that'd be a later venture. But after the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020 happened, we really felt called to go ahead and put our mission and vision out there into the world. But before we tell you a little bit about what it is now, because it's changed, I'll let Savannah introduce herself.
Hi again, everyone. My name is Savannah Smith. I also use she, her pronouns. I grew up in the Rand Skyway area of Washington State. Early on, had an interest in animals and the environment because my family had a lot of non-human family members in it. So animals ranging from hermit crabs to peacocks is what I was growing up around. And I found myself learning about marine biology and science when I was in second grade, checking out books about the ocean, dolphins specifically. And I had a teacher / family friend recommend to me that I be a marine biologist someday. And of course, at second grade, I had no idea what that actually meant. And I didn't even know any people that looked like me, Black women, that were in the science field in general. So it was kind of hard to imagine, but somebody told me I could do it. So I set my mind on becoming a marine biologist. I ended up going to Western Washington University to pursue my bachelor's in marine biology there, which was great in the sense that I got to work really hands-on with professors, collecting specimens for labs and monitoring harbor seal hunting behavior. But it was also a big culture shock for me because I was coming from a majority minoritized community to a predominantly white university. And the things that I felt made me special and weren't really a topic of conversation between me and my peers or my elders were very nonchalantly talked about and experienced by my white peers in college. And so there, I really noticed the disconnect there was for BIPOC in environmental spaces, whether that was political, professional, academic, or just community-based conversations and decisions. Didn't know what to do with the observations while in college, so just navigated my way through getting my degree, but was very excited to meet Ebony afterwards because her passion so closely aligned with mine, and she encouraged me that we could create space for ourselves and for others. And so SeaPotential was born, which our mission now is to cultivate a full cycle of BIPOC representation in maritime. And we define maritime as any career connected to water, essentially. So the traditional sense of maritime with commercial fishing and shipping, but also things like marine science or marine educators, we incorporate that into maritime careers. So to accomplish our mission, we have two main tracks. The first one is youth engagement. We are working with youth, acknowledging individual and generational trauma youth could be carrying with them, causing them to harbor these subconscious or even conscious negative biases towards marine environments, and then tying in stories of cultural resiliency and opportunities for healing and just more opportunities for positive experiences outdoors in marine spaces. And then the corporate advancement side of our company focuses on working with maritime industry businesses on their workplace culture so that they're promoting representation over assimilation. And that shows up through workshops and trainings like cross-cultural communication, conflict resolution, accountability, and even embracing the inner child in the workplace.
So we've been in existence for a little less than a year. So we're really excited because our 1-year anniversary is at the end of December. So thank you for being here and kind of being like a little celebratory moment for us. But we're going to get into our presentation now. We're starting in the present with our previous experiences from the African diaspora and how we relate to water. And so to get us started, we really went to ask the group a question and see what previous experiences you have with water and how is water talked about within your family. So we'll give you a second to process that. Savannah's going to drop it in the chat and then we'll read some of the comments. And if you would like, you can come off mute as well.
Don't be shy, y'all. We're gonna be doing a couple of different breakout rooms and group shares. So this is going to be interactive session. We're in community with each other today. And if you're on YouTube, you can go ahead and drop your replies in the YouTube comments too, and that can be transferred back to us. So we'll see you. Right, we have somebody in chat. Camille, I've always loved the water. Started swimming when I was 3. Always been a big part of my life. That's beautiful. Thank you, Camille. I can share too while we're waiting for other people to drop in the chat or unmute. You can unmute and talk. But for me, I've always felt really connected to water too. I like to think it's because I'm a Pisces. But one thing I always say is that water was a place of comfort and security for me. Oh, same, another Pisces, nice. Thinking back to how in the womb, you know, water, I think that's the safest that I ever felt in life. And I was in a fluid of like basically water. So when I get back out into water in present day life, it feels like I go back to that moment of like, wow, I feel safe and secure. But at the same time, I always did like to be in the water when I was younger, but I would like keep I call these little hairs on the back of my neck, my baby hair or my water hairs. And they were the only hairs that I would allow to get wet. But the rest I'd be like, no, like my face can get wet, my hair can get wet, only on my little water hairs. Yeah. And for my family, it was talked about more so. We kind of recreationally went to the water together, but there was still a little bit of fear around water. I remember my dad always, when going to the beach, would super stress, don't go above your knees. Like you can walk in to your knees, that's it. And I was always so frustrated, like, why? Like you can't do nothing at your knees. Like it was so irritating, but that's how it was talked about.
I can read this one. Christina said, as a child, tried to have every birthday at the beach. Always felt a sense of calm by the water, in any type of water. My Caribbean side of my family loves and embraces water and the ocean, and the other side of my family is very fearful of the ocean. And that's really beautiful to hear, and also seeing like there is this like ambiguous balance between good experiences and bad experiences. And I feel like I have similar moments of that within my family, as we would have a vacation every other year, it's our family vacation, and it would be at the beach. And we would love to go by the water, but yeah, again, not going, you're not going too deep. Like you're gonna stay where I can see you. Love the pool because it was a contained space. But then I also have experiences like with my brother. I almost drowned my brother in the pool because we went too deep, and I was like, I'm not gonna be the one to go under. So I was like climbing on his back, and my mom had to get us both out of the water. And so it's like these, like, you know, it wasn't quite as negative for me because I wasn't being like affected in the same way. But you know, for my brother, I was over here almost about to drown him, and so it's just like a very complex space of these positive, negative experiences. And so we're just going to talk about a little more about, yeah, some of those negative and positive experiences in our own ancestry.
I want to give a little bit more chance before we move on for people to unmute and let's hear your voice, share your stories if you feel comfortable as well. All right, going once, going twice. So to me. All right. So thanks to y'all who shared a little bit about your stories, your personal experiences, and how water is talked about in your family. And even if you didn't share, I hope that you were able to reflect on that a little bit. The reason we wanted to dive into this is because we know our experiences affect how we navigate lives or our lives, and the stories that we're told by our families, we know that they get passed on generationally. And so either unknowingly or not, what we're told about relationship to water, how we should connect to water, that could affect how we tell it to our future generations and affect how we interact with water when we are in space with it. And so I don't know about y'all, but I'm sure you've heard this stereotype before, especially if you are a Black woman or Black person yourself. But a stereotype that that I grew up with was that Black people can't swim, Black people don't swim. So it was something that I was always told. And when summertime comes around and you want to get in the water, or I wanted to get in the water, having friends look at me like, "Ooh, like the water is nasty," or we don't swim. Was something that I didn't quite understand because I love being in the water, but it was just a narrative that I accepted because it was told to me so many times by so many different people. So what we're kind of talking about today is along those lines of how these stereotypes even came to be. And so I know from looking back at Jim Crow era, the ways that Black people have been disconnected from water, we see that there was lynchings happening in environmental spaces close to water, making it feel unsafe to go out into those spots and try to recreate and swim. We had the segregation of swimming pools and segregation of beaches that put us in positions where the water was toxic and was polluted. So, when my friends are telling me now, "Oh, water is nasty," does that stem all the way back from because the water they did give us access to back then literally was nasty and unsafe. And then you have things like white beauty standards. We were told our natural hair wasn't beautiful. We were pressured into straightening it. So how can you really swim and enjoy yourself when you're worried about maintaining that beauty standard and keeping your hair dry? What I was really never taught, though, was the rich culture that we as Black people had with water. And so that's what we really want to share here today. Actually, the learnings we're sharing about come from Kevin Dawson. He wrote a book, Undercurrents of Power, Aquatic Culture in the African Diaspora, and also attended a workshop of his where he shared some of this information. But something that was really highlighted throughout the book was Black people's impressive ability to swim and basically be one with water. In the book, there's multiple accounts of Europeans comparing Black people and their swimming ability to marine creatures even, or seabirds that dive like cormorants, fish. We're even comparing Black people to mermaids because the swimming ability was so fluid and so impressive. Europeans often, in their recounts of their travels, often noted that Africans were stronger swimmers than them at the time. And so this connection to water showed up in many different facets in the African culture, whether that was economically or recreationally, spiritually, and was even shown as a reclamation of power. And so to dive into those a little bit, you can see economically, swimming ability and connection to water was important because a lot of these communities were maritime communities. They were going out on canoes and catching fish and using seafood as a source of food for the community. We also had African women involved with diving for cowrie shells, which were used as currency at the time. And so it's pretty amazing to see that the power that women had in the community to do this physical task, but also being involved with financial handlings, which in our kind of American history hasn't been quite the same. Recreationally, we Kevin Dawson shares that surfing, the first written account of surfing, actually happened in Ghana. So prior to finding this written account, people believe that it happened in Hawaii around 1778, but the first written account from Ghana was actually from 1640. And so it's pretty impressive to think that Black folks were a part, or African folks were a part of being the first to do something when we're told these stories that we don't swim, we don't interact with water. We're some of the best swimmers at one point in time, and some of the first to engage with water in specific ways. Parents even encouraged swimming of youth at very young ages. So youth, or babies really, were taught to swim between the ages of 10 months and 14 months, or after they stopped weaning their mother's milk between the ages of 2 and 3, they were encouraged to go play in the water and build on these skills. As a reclamation of power, we see during the time of enslavement, our swimming ability was used to buy freedom. So Europeans, they essentially weren't really strong swimmers at all, or couldn't swim. So when ships would capsize, they would likely drown unless saved by Africans, and Africans would almost every time save themselves. So using this ability, they were able to buy their freedom for themselves and their loved ones by saving drowning Europeans or salvaging wreckage ships. It was a form to reclaim that personal power and freedom again. Also, swimming was used to escape, because if Europeans can't really swim after them, it was a good method for Black people or enslaved Africans at the time, to save themselves from these situations, and were even used as meeting grounds for planning different escapes. And for women, water was a way to reclaim sexual power even. So water was a place where women could feel safe. As they were bathing and recreating together, it was a place where they knew they couldn't be harmed. Europeans may have been watching from land, but they wouldn't dare go into the water. So women would even sometimes taunt from the water, knowing that they were protected by that being. And lastly, spiritually, water was a place for Africans to connect with ancestors. And it was also a place where offerings were made to water deities before going to battle or hunting or traveling. It was a way to ask for guidance and protection. And that actually leads us into something that Ebony is going to share a little bit more about.
Thank you, Savannah, for sharing a little bit about our rich history when it comes to instances of relationship to water. And so I myself want to share another beautiful instance where you see a rich engagement with water in the African diaspora. It's within the Baka tribe. So the Baka tribe is inhabiting the southeastern rainforests of the Cameroon area, Northern Republic of Congo, Gabon, and Southwest Central African Republic. And I'm going to actually show you a video of something called water drumming. Now, water drumming is really important in their society. And this particular instance where women are leading, it happens when women are going to go hunt. And so the ritual is usually performed around dawn, but before the sunrise, so that there's still ample amount of time to go hunting in the early morning. And it is known that the ritual enchants the forest and actually process of calling the animals out so that the hunters don't have to go really deep into the forest. And so I just think it's really beautiful instances to see a relationship with water. And it's not just this ritual when they're going hunting that this happens, but it's also other special ceremonies and times of war. And acknowledging that the instance that we're going to show you, although it's not the ritual itself, it's a point where the women actually lead it, because in general, during the water drumming ceremonies that are not considered ceremony special, it happens by men, led by men, and women support. But in the special times, it's really cool to see that the women are leading and guiding this experience. And so I'm going to share a video really quick. And also feel free to let me know if it's too loud. Oh, sorry. And so I don't know about y'all. You're gonna tell me how you feel. We're gonna talk about it a little bit, but that is just really beautiful to witness. And again, that's not the ceremony. They were just out there having a fun time. And in some parts of the Baka tribe, depending on the region that they come from, there's actually song and dance that goes with it. But that was just a really cool instance where they're using water as a form of release, a form of connection, and that is a part of our rich history. And so just want to take a second. I know we've been rambling for a little bit. We shared a lot of information. Yeah, I want to see how y'all are feeling about what we shared. And Savannah's gonna drop that question in the chat, and we'll just give a second to get some of those comments from YouTube. But if you're here in the Zoom chat, feel free to come off mute or share in the comments.
For me, watching the video of the water drumming was first just joyful. I felt like connecting to the joy and the fun they were having, but also I was impressed and really respecting and appreciating the skill that was demonstrated by these women, because I spent a lot of time, when I was little, just like splashing in the water in the tub, and it's hard, at least for me, to find a consistent rhythm with it. Like the water is so fluid and it moves so quick. So to make that lasting beat and rhythm for so long and then do it in a group with others is just really impressive and beautiful, in my opinion. And I see we have in the chat someone felt peaceful watching that. Yes, it's almost meditative. And folks on YouTube, remember you can comment in the chat there and it will transfer over here.
We have a comment that says, it's okay if you can't hop on the camera, but it says, I feel very intrigued by the women, especially with the pattern and rhythm. I feel inspired, honestly. I agree. And as we were doing research about it, it's just really cool to see like there's a motion. So it's depending on the length in the arm as well about the depth of the sound. But then they use like flat hands to go down into the water, which creates a different sound from when they use a fist. And I think, yeah, again, just going back to how you have to know the water itself to be able to use these different techniques. And so I think it's really inspiring. We have another comment that says, love that you could clearly hear the beat and rhythm and how they use the water as an instrument. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I want to share that it's really hard to pinpoint who the lead is if you're not a part of the custom of doing water drumming. It's really hard to figure out who's leading it, but there is a leader in actuality in the instance, and it took a long time for me, but if you pay attention long enough and watch it over and over and over again, you'll eventually be able to figure it out. Ooh, I've seen a video just like that from our YouTube. Oh. And I wonder, was it from the African diaspora or from other cultures? Because it is known that it's become really popular, and so different cultures have actually adopted that practice in different variations.
I want to add that this is like a fun activity that you can kind of adapt and even try yourself next time you go to a body of water. We before led a workshop for Refuge Outdoor Festival out at this creek and had everyone, we were circled up in a group and went one by one, adding a different rhythm to the water. And that was a really beautiful experience as well. And I feel like maybe tapping into some of that ancestral embodiment and feelings by being able to just engage with water in that way. So I would encourage y'all to try that sometime as well. That does sound amazing, Fiona. Thank you. Yes, it was amazing. Yes, try it, try it. Awesome. If you do it, maybe record it and send it to us so we can see. Anyone else, any feelings that came up, maybe even when learning some of that information potentially from Undercurrents of Power, if you didn't already know it, or if you did know it, recalling when you first learned it, thinking back to our first question about relationship to water, it sounds like a lot of us here have pretty good relationships with water. And so just wondering if learning any of that information solidified it for you, affirmed it, or I don't know, just brought up any different feelings for you. We would love to hear what that experience was like. Nice. Addie White says they don't know what tribe it was from, the water drumming video they saw, I'm assuming, but it was in Oceania. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, now I have to go watch it after this.
Ooh, I love that. Andrea in the chat says, I hopped in the meeting a little late, but from what I have heard, this inspires me to expand my relationship with water other than research. And I really love that. I think that's something we really prioritize in our business as well, is more than just trying to learn the facts about water, but honoring water as a being itself and seeing what it has to teach us and what we can learn from water, and kind of going back to our roots of connection to water. So I love that. Thank you.
Merlin said, definitely didn't know any of this information before, but it's amazing to hear those types of things. I've always been close to the water, so the information means a lot to me and my connection with the water. I love that. It's like giving personhood to water, like as its own sentient being, and like actually building this connected relationship. It's like it's not just an object. So I'm really glad to hear that this can give you some more depth to your relationship with water.
Right. Again, that information was so profound to me too, coming from that stereotype being told to us that we don't swim when we aren't connected to water, to learning that literally we were one with the water. It's just so amazing. And it really just shows kind of the violence that has been inflicted on people and the ways that we've been deprived of our culture. And I think it's even more so a call to action to reconnect and reclaim this history and relationship. So I'm glad that y'all are feeling inspired by this information as well.
I think it's just important to, again, go back and say, like, there's this rich history in our relationship with water. There's so much history there, and it both has those very positive and negative experiences. And it's important to feel like, what part of history are you going to call on? Like, what are you going to choose to keep, and what are you going to give away? And so I think it's beautiful that we can learn that we have a rich history of water that's very positive, and we can recall that information into our current experience with water. So thank you very much for participating in that with us. That was a little bit about the past, and we're going to hop into the present. Should we get started, or?
Yeah, before we hop into the present, since we've been together for about an hour now, we're going to take a short bio break too. So about a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and dive into the present.
All right, y'all. See y'all in a second. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. That's my song.
Great. So hope everyone is here. We're going to be beautiful song. Wow,
Thank
y'all are too nice to her. We are going to start traveling into the present then, and something we really want to talk about today is somatics. And so if you aren't familiar, somatics is really tuning into how your body reacts in different situations, and then incorporating tools and practices that help disrupt or redirect those reactions to help you create new responses and thus new thought patterns from the way your body is physically responding. And so somatics are really important for the present because they allow you to be present. Being aware of your body helps you heal. And so thinking about some of these generational things and individual experiences that have been passed on to us, whether positive or negative, we don't even need to know why they originated or why we respond in this way, but knowing how and being aware of what our body is doing in different situations, we can address some of this trauma or unlock some of this resiliency and healing that's been passed down to us. And so we know trauma to be stored in the body, and it often just gets described as basically energy getting stuck in moments of fight, or flee, or freeze. And so with somatics, you're able to do a practice or incorporate a tool that helps you move that energy out of those states of fight, or freeze. And so being aware of these body movements and being able to heal in this way helps us unlock our inner wisdom and our inner healing. We know that epigenetics shows us that our genes can be turned on and off due to our experiences in our environment as well. So that's how you could see trauma being passed on or resilience being passed on. It's even been shown that that our expression of genes can be traced back from 12 generations. And so it really just shows the importance of how you being aware of your body and healing contributes to your lineage, and how your ancestors' ability to do that contributed to yours as well. So in this way, resilience and healing has been embodied and passed on. And I think this adds to the importance of knowing our true culture and history in the first place, because what inner wisdom and healing could we unlock by reclaiming some of those practices, like with the water drumming that we saw, by us going to the water and drumming in it? What might we unlock in our bodies from just the act of doing that and reclaiming these connections? I also want to add that as humans, we are a co-regulatory species. So in community, our ability to be aware of our bodies and demonstrate that helps all of us grow and to heal. And that feeds in a little bit into how we're going to interact and analyze each other right now in this breakout room.
So we are going to do a breakout room, and you remember how we talked about earlier, your positive experience with water? We're going to recall that, and we want you to think about it a little more deeply. And so I'm going to explain to you how the breakout room works, and then we'll go ahead and set those up. So you're basically going to be in a pair, and there's going to be A and B. So person A will basically tell their experience, a positive experience with water, to the person they're in partnership with. And the person A will tell the story, but also try to be feeling and observing what is happening in their body. Are you hot? Are you cold? Is it tense in some places? Is it not? Just a level of observation. While person B will be observing person A. And so you will be analyzing how's their body responding to their story. And so the person telling the story will have 2 minutes. And so that means person A will have 2 minutes to tell their story. person B will have 2 minutes to observe. And then we want person B to then think about or assume really what person A was feeling within their body. And then once you do that, person A would then say, oh yeah, that is what I'm feeling, or oh no, that's not what I'm feeling. And then you will reverse the situation. Now we'll process that out here. So, because it's going to be really quick, you think it's going to be long, it's going to be quick. And so, yes, again, person A will tell their story, observe their body. Person B will listen to A's story and observe what's happening to them through that experience. And you will talk about it. And then we will actually reflect on those instances out here in that big group. So you will have 10 minutes in total, 2 minutes for the first person to tell their story, 2 minutes for the person to reflect back, and then trade off having those same 2 minutes. And if there's no clarity, if there isn't clarity, I think Savannah is writing it in the chat, and that would go with you into your breakout room. Okay. So I think we are good.
And if you're on YouTube, you could also, maybe if you have somebody around you in your space that you're physically in, you could ask them to do this activity with you potentially. Otherwise, you might just kind of have to hold on and then wait for the group share moments for this part. But you could think of a story and your relationship to water. And then as you're thinking about the story or telling the story out loud to just yourself sitting in the space, you can analyze how your own body is reacting to you recalling that story. And so can we go ahead and start forming breakout rooms, or were the breakout rooms already formed?
Yeah, they're formed. People have, they need to move to them.
Thank you.
Do y'all want to go to a room?
Sure. Hello, I came back because I was in a group of 3, but if there's anybody that needs a partner, if there's a solo person, I'll join them.
No, if you want to just give instructions maybe to the YouTube again so they can know, but everybody who wanted to be in a breakout room should be in one.
Okay, great. Yeah, so YouTube, we're doing a parent share activity right now in breakout rooms. So I know y'all can't really participate in that. A way for you to kind of be present in this activity is, one, potentially if there's somebody else in the space with you right now doing this activity with them, where you can share about an experience you have with water, share a story, and they watch for your body language. And then you have a conversation after 2 minutes of telling that story about what they saw in your body language as you were talking. And then you could share back what you were actually feeling in your body and kind of compare observation versus reality. And if that's not possible, you could try just thinking about a story in your head or speaking out loud that story to just like your wall or yourself. And as you're doing that, analyze how it feels in your own body for you to recall that story. And you can go ahead and use the chat feature as well, and share about how some of that is feeling for you. And that will be transferred back to us as well. And I could go ahead and maybe talk about a story with water, and y'all could observe my body language if you want, and drop in the chat what you're seeing, if that's something y'all want to do. But I'm thinking back to when I went to Costa Rica in 12th grade. My experience at the beach there, which it just felt super magical because the sand was different. You know, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so we have really, really rocky beaches and cold water. And it's just like a different kind of lighting, you know. On a bright sunny day, it could be really beautiful, but a lot of times it's kind of more of a dull vibe. So being in Costa Rica, just having all that bright sun and then the super sandy beaches, the yellowish, whitish sand was a whole different experience for me. And watching all the little crabs running across the beach was also unique because in my beaches, Pacific Northwest, we got to like lift up rocks to see the little crabs and then they all go scrambling. But here in Costa Rica, the rocks were just, or the crabs were just bouncing up and down, in and out of the sand, all over, kind of blending into the sand themselves. So it was unique to see the way they camouflage differently and protect themselves in that environment by being more of a color of the sand and dropping down into holes in the sand. But there was that part of it. There was me actually walking up to the water and stepping into it and being surprised that like, wow, the water is warm. My first time touching ocean water that felt warm, it felt like a bathtub. And that just really added to that experience of comfort and security. And I felt like I could stay in that water like forever. It was so relaxing. Eventually, me and my friends on the trip, we started getting on each other's shoulders and like even like kind of play fighting in the water. So that was fun as well. And there was a moment where somebody in the group got carried out by the ocean too far and started to drown. And we had to like run across the beach, find some local surfers and get them to come back and go out and save our friend. And that was really scary because, you know, it was all fun and games, but the ocean really is this powerful being too. And so it was a respect for her strength in that moment as well. But I think there was a lot of different feelings that were coming up from that trip. So it's interesting for me to talk about now because I haven't really thought about it in a while. But interested, maybe if anybody in the chat wants to drop down things they observed about my body language as recalling some of those events. Yeah, feel free to analyze me if you want or share more about your own experience. Joy and happiness. Yes, very correct. I guess I'm curious, like what part of the body language showed the joy and the happiness? Was it like really in the face? Was it something else about my movements? smiles, but also rocking back and forth when telling the story. Right. Yeah, I feel that too. And I feel almost like anytime I talk about water, or as soon as I get in the water, I always notice that I start swaying. And I feel like that's just an example of embodiment right there too, of like just wanting to be like the water in a way, like feeling that unison and that connection. So thanks for pointing that out, because I definitely feel that. So what about for y'all? What are cues in your body for joy and happiness? How do you know when you're feeling joyful or happy? How do you demonstrate that to others through your body language? I tilt my head back and smile, big smiles, right? The tilt the head back is interesting. Like I wonder, yeah, what that stems from. That's really a good observation. And I love the smiles. I think there's definitely like a way we can tune into our joy, even when we're unhappy, by just choosing to smile. Like I try it sometimes and I feel like a crazy person when I do it, but like I'll be upset and I'll just be like just let me try smiling. And like you feel it in your body. At least I do. Like I can feel a slight shift of like my body remembers how happiness feels when I do that. It triggers like a whole response. And so I think that really ties into somatics too, about how we create these narratives and feelings arise from different physical sensations. And I think smiling really does induce that. And when we see each other smile, we're reminded of those kind of same feelings as well. Right, the breakout rooms. I actually did not check the time right when that started, so I was wondering the same thing. I was hoping Ebony would stop it, but I think we can give them one more minute and then bring them back in. Yeah, that would be fine. All right, breakout room people, welcome back. Everybody on the live, not in the breakout room, thanks for for being here with me and chatting.
Oh, I was unmuted. Yes, welcome back, y'all. Yeah, and so now we're just gonna open it up for a little bit of sharing about our experiences, what we learned, what we thought was true, maybe what wasn't true. What did you find out about yourself? I know you had those little conversations in your own breakout groups, but go ahead and drop some of those in the chat or come off mute and share them to our larger body.
I don't mind starting. So I'll talk about Christina's experience first and how she was telling her story. Basically, her her discovery of how she does not like coral anymore, how it started off to be a very tense and stressful experience, but it opened up to be something more majestic and adventurous. In her discovery of different things in Panama, correct, I believe. And then from what they were explaining from my experience on how I pushed myself to do something outside of my comfort zone, and then started to become calm once I noticed, it wasn't the end of the world and I was surrounded by something I knew. And I thought that was pretty cool. And my smile always give away how I really feel. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Even when I'm nervous, like the more nervous I am, it gets even bigger. So I think that said a lot as well. I really enjoyed the session.
Thank you for sharing. That was my group.
I can go next.
Yeah.
So to piggyback off what Andrea said, I think one of the things I noticed that we did in our session is both her and I used our shoulders differently when we were telling a part of the story that wasn't positive. Like our body language definitely showed that. So for me, my shoulders were raised when I was telling a tense part. And for Andrea, she was swaying back and forth a lot more until it got to those positives. And you could tell that our body language just relaxed when we were at the good parts of the story.
I like that. Yeah, it's interesting, like how we could use the same parts of our body differently, or maybe even sometimes the same body movement means a different thing depending on the person, which gets really interesting and complex when you're thinking about how we're co-regulatory species that are always kind of observing each other's body language. Maybe sometimes we're making assumptions that aren't correct, or maybe we are like interpreting somebody's reactions the same, but it could differ for us based on our experiences. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, we'll give it one more second. Okay. Well, thank you for going through that with us. We hope it's something that you can carry into your own practices in your personal lives. And it is a good somatic tool to use when it comes to trying to think through your experiences and how it makes you feel and how you can mitigate and or keep some of those happenings in your body. And so we're actually going to give you one more somatic practice. It is a variation of a body scan. And so I ask that you stand up if you have the capacity to or the ability to. And we're going to do this together. And so I say that we're going to be using our body parts in a continuous movement. And if you do not have a certain body part that I call out, know that you can either send signals to that space, visualize it moving or that space moving in, or just focus on another body part that you have access to. And so go ahead and find your little comfortable space. Let's see. You can go ahead and settle in. And I'm just going to pull up a timer real quick. Yes. Go ahead and settle in. Move those shoulders real quick. Do some little stretches. Hopefully your feet are touching the ground, whether you're standing or sitting. Go ahead and feel the earth beneath you, or connect to the earth beneath you if you're not touching nature. And so we're just going to get started. And so once you feel comfortable and all settled, just go ahead and still yourself. Take a deep breath. Okay. I ask that you can watch me or Savannah as we're doing this practice, but do want you at some point to go ahead and come within yourself, be present internally. I know it's hard not to feel like you're being watched or whatever, but just know everybody's going to be doing their own thing. So go ahead and settle within yourself and try to listen to your body. So we're going to start with our fingertips. We're just going to move them in any way that you like. Just move them for a couple seconds and go ahead and do that. Don't try to lead them or guide them anyway. Just let them do what they want. All right. And so now we're going to move on. And this is a continuous moment. So now we're going to incorporate wrist, your entire hand. Go ahead and let them move around. And so, see you doing a little bit. Go ahead and add in that arm all the way up to your elbow. Just move it around. Let it do what it wants. There is no pace. Go at whatever feels best. If that's fast, be fast. If that's slow, be slow. And let's go ahead and incorporate that whole arm to shoulder piece. Just let it happen. There is no control. And now let's add in a little bit of spinal movement. Your upper spine, your chest area, your hips. Go ahead and incorporate that into those hand and arm movements. And it's okay, nobody's watching you. Let your body do its thing. All right, now let's go ahead and add in the legs. So now this is a full external body experience. Add in that neck, your head, and just let yourself move the way you want. All right. And we're going to try to add in some of those internal organs. See if you can move your rib cage. Go ahead and try to get some movement happening internally, along with this external experience. And if that one's a little too difficult, go ahead and move those lungs. You're doing it anyway. Take some deep breaths as you're moving your body. All right. And go ahead and spend one more moment doing that. Try to incorporate as many parts of your body as you can, those organs as well. That stomach, go ahead and try to move that. On this last minute, if you haven't been doing so already, go ahead. Internalize this experience. Get outside of your mind. Focus on your body. All right. And go ahead and settle. You can come to a place of stillness. If you still want to move, I'm a sway, then do that. And let's come back to our space together and take a seat. Okay. Thank you for doing that with us. It is much appreciated. And before I actually tell you what that helps support, I want to see about your experiences. So go ahead and come off mute or drop in a chat about how that experience made you feel.
For me, I know I could be pretty stiff in my body a lot of times. Unless I'm in water, that feels like the time where I could really like loosen up and everything. But it was nice being able to go through this embodiment and these movements and kind of get out of my mind and just let my body flow. Yeah, it was peaceful. And when you said try to get your ribs to move, that was like a real moment where I was like, whoa, like I never really, thought about my ribs like that. Or it just it made me more aware of different parts of my body that I was thinking already by moving, that I was, oh yeah, I'm in tune with my body now. But you said ribs, I was like, what the? that's something I was totally disconnected from. So I liked it.
Christina said once legs were incorporated, I started dancing, so it was enjoyable. Hey, I'm glad you had that experience. Definitely more aware of my body parts. I am still trying to understand how I got my ribs to move. I love that. Yeah, definitely. When I first did it, it was very challenging. I was like, oh yeah, like I can control these random parts of my body. Like they're still a part of the experience. Huh. It's definitely a really cool practice if you want to challenge. Cool. All right. Well, thank you again for participating in that. We really see that as a variation to a body scan. You know, sometimes a body scan can just be you in a stillness reflecting internally. But this is also alternative if you are more with movement, how you can still do an internal diagnosis. Some people, when doing this, generally have a form of relief. Sometimes our bodies get stuck in freeze when traumatic experience happens and never gets a chance to process what it wanted to do. And so just having a moment where you're allowing your body to be can kind of help mitigate some of that energy from traumatic experiences. But it can also be a way to, do a check-in. So after having this instance where you're engaging every bit of your body, is there a part on me that I didn't know was hurting before doing this? Is there a part of me that I'm not in tune with and I want to spend more time engaging? Just these tools are generally very beginner-friendly activities, so you can learn to observe your body and how it's responding to you and your experiences. And I think this is something that, as brown people and Black people, that we can bring into our experiences with water, especially to our family members that might have negative experiences, how you can let your body push through these happenings, experiences what it needs to experience so that you can come into a more safe relationship with water. And so we encourage you to take this into your daily practice, but also you can take this into trying to repair or rebuild that relationship with water and do this in a aquatic space. So thank you again. And if you ever want to share about this with us, let us know. We'll drop our information at the end and you can tell us about your experiences.
Right. And I just want to reiterate, like Ebony said, this was a really beginner friendly activity, but somatics is very elaborate and can get really deep. There's even somatic therapists. So this is something that you can continue to explore deeper and deeper. And one thing we were talking about in the group out here, as there was breakout groups, was with smiling, for example, if you notice your body getting stuck in certain reactions, first being able to be aware of that, but then to bring yourself out of that is a whole other thing. So when you know different movements and experiences that elicit positive feelings within yourself, you can call on that. So for example, with smiling, I was talking about how sometimes I feel like a crazy person, but when I'm upset, I'll just let me just smile. And it feels a little crazy for a second, but the act of smiling instantly triggers feelings of happiness in my body and kind of helps me call on some of that embodied experience from the moments that I have been smiling in my past and call on those memories. So it's kind of just scratch the surface about what somatics is and how you can use it as a tool to bring you out of these stuck energies. And with that, we are going to do one more breakout room, actually, for this section. And, Ebony, are you saying no? Okay, I think, our time is actually, our time is running behind. Never mind, we're not doing that. So with this, we're gonna transition into the future now. So we talked a little bit about how the past experiences have been embodied and passed on generationally and through our own experiences as individuals. We went into the present to be aware with our body and learn how to tune into how we are feeling currently and be more present with ourselves in any given moment. And now we're going to talk about the future, which is going to bring us into kind of group envisioning and creativity. And so we really just want to highlight the power of visualization for us to create a new reality or manifest a new reality. Being able to visualize, one, that helps you trigger reactions in your body as well. So you can feel into what does a future like I'm imagining even feel like, and seeing in your mind's eye, what does it look like is the first step to getting us there. And so we're going to kind of go through that together here today, and I'll let Ebony introduce that activity.
Thank you. So we are going to break out into 3 rooms. YouTube, y'all are going to be your own little breakout room. And we're going to give you 3 questions to discuss within that breakout room. And so at the end of this will be a group art piece. We'll be using that same feature as we did earlier, the annotate. In YouTube, you can tell us what you want to put on there as well, and we'll make it happen. So use these questions to prompt us to envision something of the future and what we want it to look like. And so I'll go ahead and read them out loud, but we will also put it in the chat so that you can carry it into your breakout rooms. And so this will be about 7 minutes where you get to discuss, reflect, and figure out what art pieces you want to add to our collective. So our first question is going to be relationship to non-human beings. So with a widespread societal understanding of water having personhood, what will you envision interactions and relationships with water looking like? Our second question is going to be dealing with infrastructure. How can infrastructure reflect the characteristics of water in structure and aesthetic? And lastly, our question would be, what would nature look like if water wasn't treated as an object that needed to be contained or controlled? And so these are going to be the 3 questions that you'll be discussing in your breakout group. Really want you to vision together, and then we're going to bring that back to our collective art piece. And so, yeah, you'll have 7 minutes to do that, and we'll have 2 breakout groups in the Zoom session.
If you're on YouTube, feel free to answer some of these questions in the chat, and we can talk about that as well. And I could add some elaboration too for when we say understanding water having personhood. That is more so referring to, like, if water had the same rights as people do, how would we treat it, or how would we talk about water? Or if we were to walk up to water as if we were walking up to just another person that we're meeting for the first time, or somebody that we have an intimate relationship with, how would we engage with the water differently if that's how we understood it as a society? And there's a nice TED Talk from someone named Kelsey Leonard who presents on water having personhood. It's pretty interesting if people want to look into that sometime. So I'm curious if anybody wants to drop in the chat, are there ways that you currently interact with water that feel like more of a personal relationship, or ways that you give water personhood? I think about when I go to the beach, I more so now in my adult life associate like the ocean with Yoruba goddess Yemaya, and think of river goddess Oshun. And so I feel like in those ways kind of have personified water and greet water with kind of respect and gratitude. And so that in that way it kind of shows up for me. I also, when I drink from my water bottle, I try to remember to tell the water, like, I love you before I drink it, or like, thank you. Knowing that, you know, water kind of carries energy with it. And so what am I putting into myself, and how can I amplify, you know, the impact of this water and thank it for helping me be alive? Those are just some of the ways like I personally kind of personify water. And does anybody else want to share what their relationship to water is like in that way?
I think that's interesting, thinking about personhood to water. For me, I think, I don't know, water is just more like cleansing, you know, like I think about a shower, like it's like the first time of the day, like being there, just getting washed and like washing away kind of just whatever is going on. So maybe in that way, it's kind of like a soother or a healer, if you wanted to put like some personal personification on it, because I think it's just such a cleansing moment, a freeing moment of just being in the shower. And then, yeah, I think for that. And then I always say when I'm scuba diving, it's my favorite place to be because there is no talking. And so maybe in that moment, like water is me, you know, it's like it's all I know. Like I'm just like encapsulated in that experience, and it's just so beautiful because you're just there, you know, like I said, nobody can talk to you, you're just looking at the organisms, the species that are there, and you are at the time one with water. And so that's just a very, I don't know, soothing, and it's awesome experience to have, but also just like even spiritual and connecting in that way with water.
Right. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's definitely like, yeah, I can resonate with that. When you go under the water, it's interesting. Like you're in such this vast, you know, being, this vast fluid, but you can feel like even more of yourself in that moment. Like your thoughts get louder, you could hear and feel your heartbeat even more. yeah, that's really impactful to think about. So thank you for sharing that. Even thinking about water as a healer, like I definitely value water for its transmutation skills and cleansing ability as well, and like to think of my showers, every shower I take, as like a spiritual cleanse and washing away what doesn't serve me, but kind of more just attributed it to, oh yeah, this is something that water has the power to do, but haven't conceptualized it in the way of like, this is water being a healer to me. And so personifying in that way just takes a whole another depth to that experience. So I'm gonna be in the shower today thinking about that. Thank you. Yes. And I think another thing that's like interesting thinking about water having personhood is, we know with like the people in our lives, like family and friends, whoever, those relationships need to be maintained. So we put in effort to strengthen those relationships and grow together and heal and all that. And so I think if we had a widespread societal understanding of water having personhood, we would be more deliberate and intentional about the ways that we are engaging with water, or the frequency that we go out and interact with water, be in marine and aquatic spaces, to maintain that relationship and grow it over time. For the other question, infrastructure, how can our infrastructure relate to the characteristics of water and structure and aesthetic? I think this is a fun question because, you know, I don't really even have answers off the top of my head. So I think it really shows that it's a question that allows you to be creative, and thinking about, yeah, like, is this referring to structures reflecting water in the way that they look, like maybe having curvy buildings that reflect rivers, or is it more of a functional thing, which I think is I've been seeing more of with like the way rainwater is caught and collected off of buildings. That's definitely becoming more prominent, at least in the area that I'm in Seattle. So does anybody have any kind of thoughts of what they would like to see from infrastructure that either helps serve water better, the flow of water, or that kind of just reflects the beauty of water in our kind of industrial or urban environments? So we have in the chat, I think we could use more solar. I like water features on buildings, but feel they can be wasteful. Yeah, that's an interesting point. And it brings me to something I was learning about before, like this concept of solar roadways, I think would be totally dope. Like, but I won't get into all that right now. That's something y'all can look up if you're interested though. But solar ways, and having a way to collect stormwater would be dope. I would like to see more infrastructure that incorporates Black technologies, both present and past technologies. Yeah, same.
All right, we only have a short amount of time, so this is it. We've come to this conclusion. We have talked about our past. We can call on our past. We have talked about how we can help ourselves in the present. Well, let's go to the future. So we talked a little bit about what we want to see, and we're going to just draw it out for the end of the meeting. We're just going to draw it out and see what our vision looks like. So I'm going to pop that on the screen, and we're going to use annotate like we did in the beginning. Sorry, I lost my slides. Here we go. Okay. All right, this is our future. This is a blank canvas. And we're just gonna sit right here and draw a little bit on here and see how our ideas that we talked about in our groups can come to life on this paper.
I'm realizing I'm way worse of a drawer than I thought.
In our group, we talked about how water is gonna just take over if it wasn't controlled, and how there's really cool communities that already have some of those systems set up, and so it would probably be more of them out there. And so these little brown boxes are my my little communities houses.
Mine is looking terrible, but it's supposed to be a person sitting crisscross in front of the water, like showing that relationship with water, spending quality time together, and respecting water like as another person. But it's looking kind of like some belly button lay or something.
Okay, well, our time is out. Okay. We weren't able to create the vision, and that is okay. Things happen, but we can carry those conversations with us and create the vision out in reality. But if you really want to and get creative, you can come back to your future page and vision that. But again, just want to say thank you. And if you want to drop in a chat just some of the things that you enjoyed from today, things you might want to learn more about, just go ahead and do that as you are on your way out. And again, just thank you so much for joining us today and sticking around, and we appreciate you.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you all, especially Ebony and Savannah. It was great linking our past, our present, and our future. Just as an update, we will be having our keynote this evening. It's going to be Zandy, and we'll have trap yoga. So I hope you all continue to join us as we still striding through on BIMS Week 2. All righty, with that, you all have a great day.